You've just accessed Hardware is Forever, your source for the expert insights, ideas, and innovations you need to do more in the electronics manufacturing industry. From optimization to operations, join us as we put the pieces together for a better approach to manufacturing. Let's go.
This is Hardware is Forever, and we're going to talk about that. I'm Chris Bentliff. Jay Patel is the CEO at Amtech. And Jay, let's just dig into that. I've been excited to have this conversation with you because it's one of the earliest conversations we had when we weren't even pressing record, is an excitement around calling this platform where you share your insights and your expertise and your energy, Hardware is Forever. And let's
first of all,
that a little bit. What does that mean? Hardware is forever.
So first of all, to all my fans out there, however many or however little they are, you're probably waiting for this moment. So this is for you guys.
I love it.
So, Hardware is Forever came to me a while ago, and I've been mulling this for a while. And, it's just one of those things that when I first heard that, and I'll share, it's like, this is too good not to do something with. It's too good. And I think the way it came from it, the reason why it was like a confluence of everything. It had to do with our industry. It had to do with what we do. It explains exactly, what we do on a day-to-day basis. So it was just, it just kind of just came together. And I said, the moment that it came in, the things that I'm in, it really touched me. And it just I don't know. It just planted a seed in me. I don't even planted a seed in me. It was something. And then I said, okay, this is what we have to do. And I think the statement is, and if you guys are nerds like me and enjoy the things that I do, I don't know if there's too many people out there like that, but the quote was, software comes and goes, but hardware is forever.
And that's from the movie Halt and Catch Fire. And
No. That's from the show, AMC show, Halt and Catch Fire.
Not the movie, the show. Give us the 10-second, for those of us who haven't seen it, the context around that.
Yeah, so Halt and Catch Fire basically starts with the computer revolution in Texas somewhere with the first personal PC. And of course, it's based on true stories. It's not really the whole thing, but it starts with, a bunch of a ragtag team developing the first first laptop, I think. And then it just, once they're in that, the whole VC world comes, they move to California and they start doing eventually software stuff. So it kind of illustrated the the internet revolution, the computing revolution, starting from the PC and ending with the web browser. And I think, that ragtag team of that was working on the hardware, there's always this pull and push between software and hardware. And the hardware guys take pride in what they do because they say software comes and goes, but hardware is forever. And I think it really hit with us because that we deal with hardware every day.
What that show, it's a great show. Go check it out. But as you're sharing, I'm thinking about how it was until 2019 or something that the Air Force, some of the most critical security functions of our country were still being run on 3.5-inch floppy disks because they worked. Don't need to change it. And I thought that was fascinating because now we're all cloud computing and we're all subscribing and we're all doing all these things. And you don't actually own the movie that you bought. If the apocalypse comes, you're not going to carry that around with you. It's just in the cloud somewhere. And I love this idea of permanence. I love this idea of tangibility. And I wanted to just kind of make that connection. So as you're moving our conversation along, how does that idea of hardware, where Amtech is concerned and where your own thought processes on this are concerned, share with us that connection?
So I think, Amtech is a contract manufacturer of electronics. So we build, electronics as a service for other companies. So we don't really have our own product line. And because of that, I can see the difference in psychology between software and hardware. And hardware is hard. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. Some of the reasons are because if there's a software glitch, you can always update it. Nothing's going to end. But if you have an issue with hardware, it costs you. I mean, I'm not downplaying software. Like the
Right.
cost of bad software is, it costs money, but that can be fixed with an update. The cost of bad hardware, there's no updates you can do in the field. Like it's just game over. Like recall, and you always see that with whether it's vehicles, whether it's medical devices, whether it's your cell phones. Like there's always things happening where you can't fix the hardware, and that costs a lot of money. So hardware is hard, and it's hard to develop it. The capital costs that are required are significantly more than software. I mean, if you just look at the prototyping stage, prototyping software versus prototyping hardware, there's a cost of materials, building the infrastructure to do that, the necessity and the cost to do design and validation. Like, okay, I got a great idea. Now let's simulate the real world environments where this is going to go and simulate the stressors on it, and hopefully it passes. If not, you got another iteration, more money, more time. And then you also have to take into consideration, like this thing has to last in the field forever. Like,
right.
and when I say forever, it's a significant period of time. Like when people put factories in place, they don't want to swap out their sensors and automation controls every 2 or 3 years. They want to install it, and they want it to work for the life of the factory. Like they need that. They need that 10 to 30 year life cycle of that product that needs to work. And so all those things to develop into one product is hard, and like, it's not only like, okay, software is released and it works and it's going to work like that forever. Like hardware needs to be produced over and over and across time to be able to generate revenue. So not only is the development cost hard, then you have to control the supply chain to make sure that you are essentially creating that product so consumers can use it. So you have to control the supply chain as well. So it's just overall, it is harder. And that's why, hardware is forever kind of just encapsulated the focus you should have when you're developing and building hardware, the struggles that are there, because hardware is forever. Like it's going to last a long time. So it just captured all the things that we do with developing hardware.
When we first talked about it, and something I connect to is, and it became relevant in headlines lately, but the Voyager 2 space probe, which was launched by NASA like 45 years ago, and it is still flying across the universe to the very outer edges of our galaxy, and they can still communicate with it. They can make little software additions. The people working on it now weren't even alive when it launched, and they're still able to do things because they spent the time on the hardware that needed to be done. And when you think about permanence, that really comes to mind for me. But what I'm curious about from your perspective is, as an organization so connected to hardware, so connected to permanence, so connected to something that you want to make as perfect as you can and eliminate imperfections, we've spent a ton of time, enjoyable, interesting conversations talking about imperfection, talking about culture, talking about people, talking about processes, how we grow. Tell me about that connection for you. How are you in the hardware space, but you're so focused on the soft skills of relationships and of relationship building and of organizational building?
So I think, when developing hardware and developing these things, you have to be very, very intentional. Like we just didn't go up to the moon just because we said, okay, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. It was just like, it was very, very intentional. It was very, very planned, and it was very, very strategic. Even if you want to say the Russians just tried something and blew rockets up, and they just did, their way to test was just to go live with it and blow it up. And if it didn't blow up, it worked. If it blew up, then go back. But still, it may sound really rudimentary, but that was their test platform. They may not be as sophisticated as we think right now, but it wasn't random. And I think that's why when we go back to this, is building, like, this is a simple analogy, building hardware or anything is not a game of checkers. It's a game of chess. And I know everybody uses that analogy, and I guess it's because it's an appropriate analogy. Like, I look at it when we play checkers, we're reactive and tactical. We see the board in front of us, and we have to react to it. It's very simple. And if you're planning to develop hardware or any product, you cannot be reactive and tactical. You have to play chess. You have to be proactive and strategic. You have to make moves which effect you will not see until the next, until down the road. With patience, you will see that. But you have to have that mindset of planning, of strategy, and that patience that I made this move. It's going to take time for us to benefit from it. It may look like it's not going to work, but we've made the move, we made the strategic decision, and we have to let it play out.
And that's a function of your team, right? That's a function of the people around you, the trust you've built, and it's a function of the relationships you've built with your clients and your customers so that you can be in agreement on that. And I think that's a really interesting, and you're right, it's an analogy that is familiar, but it's especially familiar in this idea of that intentionality of growing. How does that connect for you to the challenges that you face, I guess, as a leader at Amtech, but also as you are working to solve the problems of your customers? This idea of kind of chess, and you're trying to be two steps ahead because it's really easy to be reactive, really easy to put your finger in the dam when really you got to sort of rethink, not just do we need to build the dam, but do we need to go downriver? Like, you got to think more strategically about things. How does that connect when you're also in a temporal kind of business where it's like, we got to get this out the door. We got these people with that expectations. Is there friction or tension there, or have you been able to work it out?
So, I mean, we've tried to work it out, but is there room for improvement? 100%, yes. Like, can we do better at it? Yes. Are there lessons to be learned? Can it be optimized? Absolutely. But I think, going back to that is, again, building that culture of the core values, of purpose, and that feedback loop, that ability to stay, that with that growth mindset, because and those relationships with our team members, with our customers, and with our vendors, and with our advisors. So I think, if you don't build a culture that can leverage all that can take all the information that you have and make the best decision possible, we're just putting out fires all the time, and we're not ever building anything new, or we're not enjoying the house that we're in because we're just putting out fires, and it's a high stress, low reward type of environment, and it doesn't allow growth to happen. It doesn't provide the stability that's required to build this hardware so it can go out and live in the field. It just doesn't. And I know that because I've learned the hard way. I haven't come and said this because I've been born smart. Like, right. I've made a lot of stupid mistakes. And I paid the stupid tax significantly. And I think, now that we look at it, like, having the strategy and doing these things intentionally leads to better quality, leads to better profitability, leads to better customer service, leads to better cash flow, leads to better relationships with our vendors, with our advisors, with our team members. It's just phenomenal. And the only reason we can do what we're doing is because of our culture, with our processes, and our people.
One of the things that I love about when we have our conversations, and we'll get into some of these other things that are more sort of meat and potatoes, but we haven't talked a lot about efficiency, about streamlining, about optimizing, and those are super important things, especially to a manufacturing organization. But again and again, your focus is on those things are not possible unless, and I think a lot of organizations, if they don't forget that, they don't live that. They have this idea of culture and of core values, but they don't put them into practice in a way where they can impact the rest of the organization. And I'm, as you say that you've paid the stupid tax, which we all have, But I think that's interesting that your approach at Amtech is built around, whether it's because of experience or what, but it's built around the function, the technical, the mechanics of the organization can only run smoothly when we have taken care of each other. And that's really interesting. Is that challenging to, continue to fortify? Or is that, no, at Amtech, this is how we do, and we don't hire people unless they can do what we do?
I think it's scary transitioning to that phase because a lot of these things that you thought were core approaches or core values or core processes and functions get questioned. And then, you make that hard decision that is counterintuitive, but you make it, and then you learn that, my intuition was wrong. And then you transition into that and you build that culture. And then you're like, wow, it worked this time. We use this objective approach to make this decision, and it worked. And you do that over and over again. And then the hardest part is really that transition. And once you have the transition, you're like, yeah, this is nice. It's like, yeah, it's tough to build a swimming pool or the hot tub. Like, it's tough. But then when you got it, it's like, yeah, this is nice. Of course, there's maintenance to be had. And I think that maintenance and those efforts need to be there. Communication needs to be there. Our planning needs to be shared. We do need to hold people accountable. We need to go help them. We need to support them so they can be successful. All those things need to happen on a day-to-day basis. But the hardest part is really getting and building it. And once it's built and people buy into it, it's kind of like a flywheel. It just feeds itself. And it takes a lot of energy to get the flywheel going. But once it's there, it does take energy. You need to keep it, again, like we talked about, entropy, friction, all those type of things happen. But it doesn't take as much energy. And then it's really an energy of, like, it's joyful. Like, yeah, we got to do this. Let's do it because we know it works. Like, it's not a burden anymore. And it is a moment of joy that we're able to connect to everybody again.
How does that impact your customer relationships? Like, and not just in a sort of attitudinal way where you can say, well, it makes it so that we approach, but like, I don't know, how does that handshake across the table, how is that different for you when you're not so, when you've learned those tough lessons and you're in this place of, we understand how it works? What does that mean for your customers?
I think, our customers, I can't speak for our customers, right? My customers have their own opinions, but what we try to commit to our customers is that we're not just a supplier. Like, you give us a PO, we build your product, we send it out to you. This is not a transactional relationship. We are here to look out for your blind spots, whether it's in the supply chain, whether it's in your product life cycle. Are you going to get out innovated because this thing's going to come in and really break your business? And we kind of try to integrate with our customer in a non-transactional manner so that we're more of an ally and an asset than just a supplier. It's kind of like, you go on a plane and they give you all these things like, you get headphones and you get meals and all that. It's like I really just need to go from one place to other, but the process is that much more enjoyable and it adds significantly more value to the customer. So our intention is to have our customers feel like we're just not another vendor or a supplier, but we are an ally who is looking out for their blind spots.
Jay Patel is the CEO at Amtech, sharing with us the origin story of Hardware is Forever. And as always, all these great insights and thoughts and things that make me say, oh, I'm going to think more about that or look into that. Appreciate your generosity with this one today. And to all the nerds, shout out to all of the Halt and Catch Fire fans.
Yeah, guys, go out and watch it if you haven't watched it. It's a great, it's a great show.
Yep, especially our listeners have to be kind of sort of nerdy, right? So it's a great one. Thanks, Jay. It was good to be with you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us. And a special thanks to our subscribers and followers. Consider becoming one today wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube.